So I said, okay, well, who do I know that actually knows what they're talking about, that has a good company that answers their phone, that can answer questions when I call, and really, knows their stuff. Because there's some self-directed companies that are out there that they don't answer the phone, they don't return emails. So I wanted to, make sure I'm bringing you great companies. We have a couple of great companies at MAREI, but they weren't quite comfortable. They didn't want to get on the camera. So I reached out to our good friends at CamaPlan. Ryan Ficher was gracious enough to say he would advocate on behalf of the self-directed IRA. And then I reached out to our good friends over at Quest, and they were gracious enough to advocate on behalf of the solo 401k. I'm going to bet that they're going to advocate for the other side a couple times. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm just going to welcome to the screen Ryan Ficher and Nathan Long and let them introduce themselves. So let's get started, shall we? And I am going to turn off my screen share because I know you really don't want to just look at this. You'd like to actually see who's speaking. So I am going to stop my share. And I think Kyle can get us our speakers up, and then I'll let them introduce themselves.
Yep. One quick thing, if you click at the top to get rid of the Brady Bunch look, click on View and go to Speaker. You'll see both Ryan and Nathan at the same time. So we're going to add them as spotlights, and you'll be able to see them a little bit easier if you have that speaker view on instead of the Brady Bunch view. So just a quick thing there to be able to see Kim and Ryan and Nathan all at one time.
All right, cool. Thank you, Kyle. I would have never figured that out. So I can't look at everybody. I can't see you guys because I'm trying to look at the camera and not be lost here. So first up, advocating on behalf of the self-directed IRA is Ryan Ficher with CamaPlan. Ryan, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and CamaPlan?
Sure. We are a self-directed IRA administrator for self-directed IRAs and solo 401ks. We've been in business for over a decade and a half, and we're nationwide. We have accounts in all 50 states, a big focus in the Northeast and Florida. But like I said, we have accounts everywhere. It doesn't matter what state you're in, you're able to use a self-directed IRA with us.
All right, cool. And next up is Nathan Long with Quest IRA. So Nathan, I'll let you tell us a little bit about you and Quest.
Hey everyone, Nathan. I'm the president of Quest Trust Company now. Hey Ryan, I haven't seen you for a while. I got to tell you, I wasn't sure which side of this debate I was going to be arguing because I could certainly take both sides, and so could Ryan, right? Like, we both administrate 401ks, we both have self-directed IRAs. A lot of our views are going to be kind of the same. I was talking to Quincy just before this, Ryan, and it was like, it's not 401k versus IRAs. They're both good fruit. It's just which one you need to eat at the right time.
I'd basically say have both of them if you can.
Have both of them if you can. So I think it'll be an interesting debate, though I think that Ryan and my views from my experience in the past tend to be very similar.
I find that for most custodians and IRA companies and trust companies that they all pretty much have the same ideas along the way. So I know this is a friendly debate. It's not going to be quite like hopefully Trump and Biden.
Oh God, I hope not.
Hopefully I won't be a horrible moderator. You never know.
I don't think it'll be that way. I think we'll be on the same page for the most part, and give you guys some good information that should be useful moving forward. So,
all right. Well, Ryan, my first question for you is basically, what is in 2 minutes or less? What is a self-directed IRA?
So basically, a self-directed IRA lets you invest in anything that you want. There's a few things that the IRS says you can invest in, and that's collectibles and life insurance. Collectibles include antiques, pneumatic coins, booze, works of art, that kind of stuff. But as long as it doesn't classify as that, then most likely you can use your IRA to invest in it. We do a lot of real estate. So the top things I see people investing in are real estate, private placements, that's syndications that you'll see somebody put together, PPMs, private placement memorandums, precious metals, that's physical metals stored in a depository, and then notes. Notes is another big field. So that's where we see most of our investors, but we've seen plenty of other one-off things. Had a girl buy llamas in her Roth IRA and get shaved and the fur go in. Coffee beans, Christmas trees, a lot of types of different things. But I think your group's more on real estate, so I won't waste your time there. But basically, it lets you go from Wall Street to Main Street.
Okay. Well, Nathan, I have a similar question for you, but what is a solo 401k?
Well, solo 401ks fall into a different category than IRAs in that they're designed for people who sound just like that. They're individual businesses. It was designed years ago where employees had an advantage if they could have a qualified plan like a 401k where there's employer and employee contributions. So they simplified the program and allowed for individuals to have it. But even as simplified as it is, it's very complex, it's very dangerous, but can be one of the most powerful investment tools when used right.
All right. Well, I have a question up here. What can the IRA or the solo 401k invest in? And Ryan's already told us what the IRA can invest in, but what can the 401k invest in?
The rules are exactly the same. They apply exactly the same in a lot of categories. The categories include disqualified persons are the same. What we can invest in, which is just about anything you can hold title to, with as few exceptions Ryan mentioned, life insurance and collectibles. Collectibles are specifically defined to work art, gems or metal, or as he said, booze. So most of us aren't investing in that. So it's really if you can take title to it. The important thing to understand is there's companies that deal with publicly traded assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and companies like ours that deal with private assets. And so both don't be confused. Certain rules apply towards both or all retirement accounts. Is that how you would say that, Ryan?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is there are a few minor changes. I don't want to say advantages or disadvantages, but for example, you can't out of an IRA, you can't lend yourself money. Out of a solo 401k, you do get to lend yourself up to half the account, up to $50,000. That's not necessarily, the majority of people that need that, but you do have options like that as well.
I think that's really important point too, Ryan, is and Kim, one of the things that getting to that both get to is a 401k works if you need one of the advantages. So it has advantages over an IRA, but those advantages come with a cost, right, and a complexity. So if I don't have to have the cost and the complexity, then maybe I don't need them. Those advantages are, and tell me if I missed one, Ryan, is you mentioned loans to yourself. I don't like that one because I don't think you borrow someone else's money. Borrow someone else's money, right? But you can borrow. It's the only account you can loan money to yourself. But here's the ones that are big to me. Checkbook control.
Yep.
Certain people want checkbook control. I advocate against it in the normal capacity under an IRA, though we have a lot of uses for it and stuff. But with a 401k, I think that it's very clear that's absolutely allowable, right?
Yep.
Large contribution limits. I'm trying to shovel a lot of money into my IRA because I'm making a lot of money, either Roth or traditional. I'm trying to do one of those things. Or one of the big advantages that most people miss is it allows you to not pay unrelated business income tax on debt leveraged property. And that includes commercial property like apartment complexes and those things.
All right. Well, we are getting a little ahead of ourselves. You're like stealing all my questions.
God, we'll talk forever if you let us.
I know. So we're gonna go on. We're gonna ask Ryan. And I know both accounts have prohibited transactions. So we're going to ask Ryan about prohibited transactions. what kind of in a 2 minutes or less, what is a prohibited transaction? And I'm pretty sure that the same prohibited transactions pretty much apply to both.
They do, except for the loan with the 401k. So basically you have prohibited people, and I'll do this real quick: lineal, ascent, descent. So stemming from you, your spouse, parents, grandparents, kids, grandkids, or any business or entity you own 50% or more of or have control of. So if you own an LLC, you can't take your IRA, for example, and lend it to the LLC that you own. I know everybody wants to do it, but IRS says you can't do that. What was the other part of the question?
What is basically what is I was losing my question. What is a prohibited transaction?
So there is no self-dealing. Like with the IRA, you can't lend money to yourself. You can't buy a property and live in it. You're a prohibited person. You can't do the work on the property, or any of those other disqualified people that I mentioned. But for example, just like Nathan was saying, with the 401k, and maybe I can let him elaborate on that too. But when you have checkbook control that he mentioned, you really need to understand the rules. And that's why we encourage everybody to work with their accountants and attorneys. But say you have that and you say, oh, well, I'm going to go to Home Depot and swipe my credit card and I'll just have my account pay me back. You can't do that, because you can have checkbook control in an IRA too. And again, like Nathan mentioned, I don't, advocate for it, but if you can do it, and we have people that do it, but you really need to understand those rules so that you don't do something prohibited. If you do something prohibited, you kind of mess up all the tax benefits that you're getting from the IRA.
I know this last week, it took me a while. I had to pay the setup fee for a utility. And so my IRA and I was partnered with the IRA. So I had to have my IRA custodian write a check for $8 while I wrote a check for the other 12. It was really strange.
Yeah, if you do end up partnering, it will be split like that. So it is a little bit more accounting on your end, but the IRA is responsible for 100% or X%, and it always needs to go that way. It's just a little bit more work.
All right. Well, we're not going to go all the way through. Because we could be here for like a week and a half. That's why you guys have all these big conventions to learn everything there is to learn. We have 90 minutes. So I'm going to start with Ryan, and then I'm going to ask Nathan. So Ryan, on an IRA, who qualifies to open an account? What do you need to be able to open an IRA, a self-directed IRA?
You need to have earned income and be alive.
Okay. And does your earned income have to be more than what you're contributing? So if you only earn $2,000, how much can you contribute?
$2,000.
All right. Well, Nathan, who qualifies to open a solo 401k? Oh, you're muted, Nathan, man. We got to get you out.
I was like, ooh, that's a much different question. So unfortunately, you hit on one of the trumps. You can't just have qualified income, like Ryan said. Now, all income qualifies to go into retirement accounts. Certainly, if I have investment income or Schedule E, that doesn't qualify. But if I get income that's W-2 or things, I can just put that into it. The problem with a 401k is you can't go, golly gee whiz, I just want one because they're cool. You have to qualify. And so what does that mean? Well, you have to be able to what we call legitimize the account. You see, a solo 401k is for a self-employed person. So you have to demonstrate, first of all, that you're self-employed. How do you demonstrate you're self-employed? Is you show that on your tax return, right? You actually show some type of, now it could be W-2 income from a company you own, or it could be Schedule C type income, but you're showing that you actually had that income. Step one. The second step of the process of legitimizing it is you have to make a current year contribution in the year that the 401k was open. It's unclear that you have to do it in subsequent years, but the year that it's open, you have to make a contribution. That can't be a rollover contribution from a different IRA. That's the process of legitimizing it. Oh, I've had income, I showed it on my tax return, and I made a contribution. Now, what's interesting is you could have, let's say you could be an employee at the widget factory with a 401k at work, but then you had haircutting service outside of work and you had some Schedule C income. You could also have a 401k for your haircutting business. So it does require qualifications. There's a lot of advantages to it, but you got to make sure that you can legitimize it, because there are people who will sell you the documents for a 401k and not explain the step of legitimizing.
And we have a follow-up question in the chat. Can it be from passive investing? So what qualifies as your income?
No. So for the follow-up question, typically passive income, isn't it? What is qualified income? The proper thing is ask your CPA, right? But a short answer is you're basically paying, Social Security and Medicare and other types of taxes on it. And that's what qualifies it to go into a thing. So as soon as you get those exemptions from those type of taxations, then it becomes unqualified for it. So investment income, it's passive income from other sources, most of the time alimony, other types of things like that don't count.
Well, Nathan, I do just want to add real quick, and I'll let you go on. I believe 1099 also will count for that.
Yeah, 1099. Yes. So, but typically, again, right, if you get 1099 income, you're going to pay your Social Security tax, your Medicare, your
correct
other taxes on that.
All right. Well, I think we've kind of covered who qualifies. We are going to move to the next question, and we are going to start with Nathan. So on a 401k, can I have it be a traditional account or a Roth account or maybe both?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. With the 401k, the answer is both, but it's more complicated than that, right? The answer will be both when it gets to Ryan too. But with a 401k, you can make traditional contribution as the employer. Your employee contributions, which you also get to make, and again, you're the same person, you're the employer or the employee, can be made as traditional or Roth contributions. And those contributions can be really large. I think up to $26,000 if you're over the age of 50 on dollar for dollar income of a Roth contribution, right? I could also roll over traditional IRAs, SEP IRAs, 401ks from other accounts, but there is something really important to understand you can't do. You can't move a Roth IRA into a 401k, including a Roth 401k. Because once it becomes a Roth IRA, and if you take it out of a Roth 401k, it becomes a Roth IRA, it never can go back in. So that is weird. But there is a caveat. We now have the ability to do conversions inside of a 401k. In other words, I could move in my SEP IRA, my tax deferred amount. I could do a conversion to a Roth IRA inside the 401k, pay my taxes on it, and then it becomes part of the Roth 401k. I'm sure that answer confused most people, but
totally. So we're not going to stick on that a long time. But I'm going to say if they really want to understand more in-depth nuances, that they get with you and ask some more questions.
No, honestly,
Ryan,
if they want more stuff, I have Haley on. She's actually one of our 401k experts at Quest. She's much better at answering these questions than I am.
We'll get her to help us when we go to the Q&A. So Ryan, I think we've already answered it, but we'll ask you: can a self-directed IRA be Roth or traditional, or both?
Absolutely, both, and you can have both.
But not in the same account.
No, they're separate accounts. Obviously, you wouldn't want them to be in the same account because one's tax-free, one's tax-deferred. So yeah, they would stay separate. And you can partner accounts together too. Say you wanted to buy, I'm just going to say 50-50. It doesn't need to be 50-50. But say you had money in a traditional and a Roth, and you said, oh, well, I want to go buy this house, but I don't have enough in one account. Okay, well, my Roth IRA is going to buy it 50%, and my traditional IRA is going to buy it 50%, just like the deal you did with your 75-25. Well, you can also use multiple IRAs, and we have a lot of clients that set up accounts for their kids as well, and maybe there's multiple partners in there, and they're building their kids' Roth IRAs. I know you have a question about conversions and stuff later on, so I'll get to that. Or if you make too much money, I'll let you get to that. I won't go into that right now.
We'll get there. I wanted to have some of the questions be shorter and then some of them longer. So the next question, Ryan, is what are the contribution limits for the IRA? How much can I contribute, not earn, into my IRA? And what's the difference between contributing and earning?
All right, so I want to start with contributing and earning, because a contribution is different than earnings. You can earn as much as money as you want in the account. Obviously, that's the goal. When we all like to have bought Amazon stock for $2 and made a ton of money. So it doesn't matter how much you earn, you can still make your contribution each year. I'll just go kind of real quick here. Roth and traditional IRAs, if you're under 50 years old, you can contribute $6,000. You get an extra $1,000 if you're over 50, so $7,000. There are other accounts, 401ks, you can contribute more. I think you can do $19,000 tax deferred, and then contributions up to $57,000. And I think you can get up to a 25% match if the company wants to do that. And a simple IRA, I think, is $13,500. And a SEP, the SEP, the simple, and the 401k are obviously employer plans, but the SEP also lets you put $57,000 into it, but that has 25% of what the business makes up to $57,000. So if you only made $100,000, then you wouldn't be able to max that out. But again, that's for, your accountant to tell you, what you can put in there.
All right. Well, Nathan, I think we might have stole your thunder, but let's go over it again. Anyway, what are our contribution limits for a solo 401k? How much can we put in there?
Okay. Like Ryan's answer sounded really complicated to me, and I do this all the time. And the problem is the 401k answer is even more complicated. All right. So this takeaway from the 401k is you can put a whole bunch in it. And for some people, that's really good. In excess of $6,000 if we're making a lot of money and we're over the age of 50. But I have other clients that have a different problem, Kim. They have a lot of income, but as one of the clients was talking about here, a lot of it's not qualified. So they might have a little bit of qualified income, maybe $20,000, $30,000 from commissions from real estate or something like that, and a large amount of other type of income. So they would really like to have all of that income into a retirement plan. Give an example of a person made only $30,000 and they had a solo 401k and they were over the age of 50. Well, the first $26,000 they made, they could make a contribution to the 401k as a Roth as an employee. The rest of it could be made up as an employer. Then they could use that same $30,000 to jump to Ryan's side of the fence and make contributions into the Roth IRA for themselves, a Roth IRA for their wives, possibly other contributions into health savings accounts and covered healths over on the other side of the fence. So the answer to it is it's a whole bunch, and you should talk to an IRA specialist to make sure you understand the contribution limits, because you ain't going to get in this 90 minutes.
All right. Well, cool. I'll let you guys know. Haley is jumping in on some of the more complicated questions that we're getting in the chat and helping us out. So I'm glad we've got Haley there to answer some of those questions. And then some of them are just so complicated, and it's going to be the attorney answer. It depends, because it's all going to depend especially on what you've got going on in your own business and in jobs and things. So let's go on. Nathan, you kind of almost touched on this question, but not quite. Can I make too much money to contribute to my account? And if so, are there ways I can still get that money into my account? So can I make too much money this year to contribute to my 401k?
That's not a problem with the 401k. It's one of the advantages, including large Roth contributions, how much you make. So that's often the reason why they're used.
Okay. Well, Ryan, what about you? Can we make too much money to contribute to, let's just go with the traditional self-directed IRA. We won't worry about all the other IRAs. Can I make too much to contribute?
Not to the traditional, but I do want to say you can make too much for the Roth. But in 2010, they changed the rule. So if you want to put money in a Roth and you make too much money, like I said, it doesn't matter how much you make to put money in your traditional IRA, but the Roth IRA, it does. So you put the money in the traditional IRA every year. And we have people that do this and have zero balance traditionals because they want everything Roth. They put their $6,000 or $7,000 into their traditional. They fill out our Roth conversion form, and they convert it to the Roth each year. So yes, word on the street is they call it backdoor Roth IRA. It's not really backdoor, but it kind of that term kind of grew on the street. So yes, anybody, no matter how much money you make, can put money into a Roth, and it doesn't matter how much money you make to convert. If you want to go convert $10 million from your traditional IRA to your Roth, you can go convert it. Conversions have no limits, and it doesn't matter how much you make. Anybody can convert at any time, as long as it's not an inherited IRA. But,
and it's right now a $6,000 contribution or with $1,000 makeup contribution if you're old like me.
Yep, you get $7,000 if you're over 50.
All right. Okay, well, we'll continue with Ryan. This next question is, my IRA it's in place and it's ready to go and it's ready to make an investment. So I'm going to go out and buy a house. Who's the buyer on my contract for my IRA?
That's very simple. It's the IRA. So for example, CamaPlan, FBO, Kim Tucker's IRA would be the purchaser. Obviously at Quest, it'd be Quest, FBO, Kim Tucker's IRA. So it's in the IRA's name. I don't know, Nathan can maybe answer this, but we also get EINs for each account so that it has its own tax ID number. But either way, that's going to be the purchaser of the IRA with its specific tax ID number. It's not you. Obviously, if you were doing it with your Social Security number, you'd be paying taxes because you're not exempt. So it's the IRA is the purchaser.
And who signs the contract? Do I sign it? Do you sign it?
Both. We don't do anything without you signing it read and approved, right? And then we're going to sign off for benefit of your IRA. So
Okay.
It's pretty simple. Every transaction goes exactly like it normally would. The only difference is you have one extra person signing off on it, being us, for example.
Okay. And Nathan, what if my 401k is buying a house? How do I title that?
Well, that is one of the things. It is different than an IRA, and some people would call it one of the advantages, right? It could also be one of the disadvantages. When you're using an IRA, you're running everything through the custodian. So the custodian's looking at it. Now, there it is, IRA for the benefit of John Doe, IRA 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't look prohibited to me. It looks like it's okay. You know, they at least give it a cursory look. When you're using a solo 401k, you're it. You become the trustee. Examples of vesting might be, you know, Jim Davis, trustee for Jim Davis's 401k plan, or Jim Davis's 401k plan trustee, Jim Davis, versus an IRA being the actual signer and actually even holding, when an IRA buys an asset, they're even holding title to that asset. That's why you're paying those administration fees to the IRA company, right? They're doing that as a service. When you have a 401k, you're basically just buying the documents or the legal right to have that, and you is on your own.
Okay, you're scaring me now.
Well, as Nathan said there, you do want to pay more attention, and that's why you want to have, you know, your accountants and attorneys aware of those accounts. And I will mention too that ourselves or Nathan, or when I say that, Quest, CamaPlan or Quest does not do any of the tax documents for 401ks. So you need to have your accountant, attorney, or other professional there to do that. That's why they are a little bit more complicated. They're not hard, but you do need to understand the rules of what you need to do to keep that account qualified.
And I will put a caveat in here for everything we're talking about. I had someone walking up to me at the MAREI meeting a few months before we stopped meeting live, and they had all these big plans for doing all this stuff within their IRA, and they were wanting my advice. And my advice was, you better go hire an attorney and talk to your custodian. Because while I know what I'm doing, I don't know that I'm an attorney or a custodian. So before you go anything, even just doing a simple transaction, talk to your custodian and make sure it's legitimate. And I would even go a step further. it may not be consulting your attorney, because while your attorney might be great, he may not know anything about self-directed IRAs or Roth IRAs. You want an attorney that knows what they're talking about when it comes to this.
And honestly, there's not very many of them, so that makes it difficult.
I just send them all to John.
There you
No, I get that answer as well. They said, I already talked to my accountant attorney. They know nothing about IRAs. We can help you. Both of our companies have references and, people that have worked with us. So that's not necessarily a problem. But again, I will say, just to emphasize when you said, talk to your custodian and stuff, ultimately it's the client's responsibility to make sure that they don't do something prohibited. Yes, we're going to look at it. We'll give you it. We have a lot of education. We have accountants and attorneys on webinars and everything that you can look at. But our go-to answer is, while I'll say, well, I've seen other people in a similar situation do it like this, but go consult with your accountant and attorney, because I don't know all the specifics of everything that you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I would caveat on that. Like, don't take the fact that your self-directed custodian says it's okay that they're going to process it, that means it's a smart thing to do, right? We are legally obligated to process all transactions as long as they're not obviously prohibited. We can look at it and go, whoo, boy, that's a dumb one. Okay, vested right? Mm-hmm. Not obviously prohibited? Mm-mm. That's our job. So it's really important to understand, to get your own tax, legal, investment advice. And I always say, like, if you don't understand a deal, don't do it.
Well, we also don't give, and this is important for everybody to know, we don't give tax or legal advice. We've seen a lot of deals go through, so we know. But say, for example, I'll just give you a quick example, and this relates back to like a prohibited transaction. Say you're married to a doctor, for example, but maybe he or she didn't change their name because they were a doctor, and they didn't want to. And you said, hey, well, I'm going to take my IRA and lend it to John Doe, but your last name is you're Kim Tucker. Okay, Kim Tucker's lending to John Doe, but John Doe's her husband as the doctor. That's going to go through in our system because we don't know that John Doe's your husband. We might see it, but we're not going to go necessarily look at your beneficiaries. Maybe if that happens, so maybe it's your mom with a different, divorce name. Are we going to know? Probably not. So there's little things like that you need to pay attention to make sure that you don't do it. We can't catch anything. So we can catch the obvious. Oh, you're lending to someone with the same last name. Okay, well, if it's your brother, that's fine. If it's your husband or your kid, then it's not fine, right? So that's one thing you have to look at there, because we don't know. If we saw the last name, we'd say, hey, what's the relationship to this person? But if you did that in your 401k, like Nathan was saying, there's no one looking at it but you.
Yeah, you've got to make sure you have good documentation and know what you're doing. So we're going to move on, and this is probably going to take us right back to the attorney. Nathan, does a 401k have checkbook control? And I think you've already said.
Yeah, unusually, a 401k works differently. You become your own trustee. So you take in a lot more responsibility as the trustee. And that allows you to do things that I often would fuss at, which would include having the checkbook. Matter of fact, you're basically required to have the checkbook. But you could also form, let's say, LLCs inside of the 401k, and you be the managing member. There's a lot of structure that certain attorneys may find very desirable for you in certain investment circumstances. So, again, it can be a very, very powerful tool when used right.
When used right with advice. And Ryan, what about checkbook control for the self-directed IRA?
Yes, absolutely. You can do it. But then again, just like Nathan said, you need to be aware of prohibited transactions. You just want to understand the rules when you're going to do that, because there's no one else, looking over your back. Like we had said before, you're ultimately responsible for it. And you can get a third-party administrator as well Most of the time, a lot of people with the solos are their own trustees and their own administrators, but you can get an administrator to do that for you.
There is a quick article in the newsletter about checkbook control, but one question, if I have an IRA and I want to create an LLC to put all my money in so I have that checkbook control, do I just go create an LLC and put all the money in it, or should I get a special kind of LLC and setup?
No, you need, I don't want to say special LLC, but there are some guidelines, and you can't create it again because, like I said, you're a prohibited person. So you need, and I'm not saying you have to get an attorney to do it. I recommend that somebody would get an attorney because you want to have an ongoing relationship. So anything because you're going to have questions, and like I said, if things need to be filed for the LLC, you don't want just something you got offline. It should be based off the Swanson case, by the way. I know that doesn't mean anything to most people, but Swanson versus the IRS is the case that let it go through. In my opinion, it won on 2 of the weakest points. There was 4 points, but the IRS let it go. It's been around for decades. People do it, but do it carefully. Now, on that, I do want to add, well, actually, I think that's another question you have of what happens if you do something prohibited. So I'll wait for that. But
well, that is my next question. What happens if I accidentally do a prohibited transaction?
Call the IRS and tell them right away, Kim.
No.
All right. So there's I mean that is the correct answer. You want to call them. You may get an exception to try to undo the transaction. So the worst thing is, I don't want anybody to feel like this is too complicated. It's very simple. Both of us have thousands of clients. We do this every day. We're here to help you. There is no IRA jail. Okay. The worst thing that's going to happen is it would be with a prohibited transaction is they treat it as a distribution. If you're under 59.5, you'd have a 10% penalty. If you're over 59.5, you wouldn't have the penalty, but you'd pay the taxes on whatever the asset was there, or the whole account, depending if everything was in that account or not. It could all be included. So that's the worst thing. It's not, like I said, there's no IRA jail.
All right. Well, Nathan, what if I do a prohibited transaction in my 401k? What happens then?
The rules are the same. And so my thing is if you suspect that you've done a prohibited transaction, I honestly think it goes back to talk to an attorney that understands this. God, you keep saying John's name. If you're gonna form a checkbook control LLC and an IRA, man, I have a lot of objections. I don't agree with John Hire on everything, but I will tell you that if you use someone like that, they're going to put legal barriers in it that are going to help to protect you that no other IRA would, and they're going to understand some of the nuances that no other attorneys would. Like future contributions can greatly affect the way that the entity of the LLC is perceived, and all types of legal arguments that you probably don't want to understand or don't need to understand. Just take my word for it. Don't use an out-of-the-box LLC. Don't use an out-of-the-box trust. And God, I've done all those things myself. So I'm like telling you to do things that I've already done, but learn from my mistakes, and a little bit of money up front will fix it. And here's the thing. There's very few attorneys that also understand what it means to do a prohibited transaction. In other words, what it actually means to go against the IRS if we have to do that. So that experience is just like, if you just even suspect it, spend a little bit of money and make sure that you're getting the right advice. Sorry.
Okay.
A big plug for John in there somewhere, even though
even though we couldn't get him on the webinar. All right, well, let's move on. And we had a question in the chat, and I kind of think this might answer one of those questions. So can I, and this is for Nathan first, can I or the company that I own do a deal with the account? That's one question. Or if I can't, let's just do that. Can I do a deal with the account? So can I partner accounts?
Disqualified people can technically always partner together as long as they buy, sell, trade, or extend services back and forth. Certainly your business or whatever can't benefit from an investment your IRA makes. In other words, your IRA can't loan money to your investment or move back and forth. Could I partner? Yeah. Yes, you can partner your IRA with non-IRA money. Would I allow it at Quest all the way along? I'm sure around that. Would I do it? Honestly, no.
Okay.
I only partner my like funds. In other words, I only partner my IRAs together with other IRAs, and I only use my outside money differently. And that's maybe because I'm being probably overly cautious, to be honest with you, but doing what I do, there's a reason that I should probably be a little bit more cautious than some of you, if you understand that. And so I just don't do it. It's just complicated. It's just like the thing you were talking about. I had to spend $8 from this and $7 from that. It just gets too much. But when I have it all in one IRA, I said the IRA cut it, and then the IRA custodian can kind of cut up those differences with their accounting systems.
So let's say that my IRA, or stick with the 401k, my 401k buys a house, and I'm a realtor, and I want to sell that house. Can I list that house and earn a commission personally on the house that my IRA owns?
Yes, to half your question. Could you? I would say yes. As a realtor, you're a fiduciary to that IRA. You could list it. You could bring all your experiences to bear as to benefit to either your IRA or your 401k. Could you get a commission? No. That would be a benefit, obvious benefit directly to you. So you would have to forego your commission.
Okay.
My wife's a real estate.
Not even forego, and this goes for the IRA as well. You can't be the realtor and just say, I'm not going to get any commission. You're going to want to get somebody else to do that transaction, because it's just like, for example, if you buy a property and you say, your IRA buys a property, you can't say, oh, well, I'm going to paint the walls for free. Well, now you're giving your IRA a benefit.
Now, I got to give you a different argument, Ryan. All right.
From the 401k or IRA side? Sorry.
Both sides.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I would say both. My wife's an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
She drafts documents for our IRA. She just doesn't charge a fee to doing it. She does things. How do you justify that? Well, I say the line in the sand that I've seen drawn over the many, many years, because there is no law out there, you can't tell me there is, it is that if it's fiduciary, in other words, I'm bringing to bear my knowledge as a person, and I'm bringing that to bear to my account, now I can make a good argument. I'm just being a good fiduciary to my IRA. As soon as I start slinging a paintbrush, right, or swinging a hammer, it's absolutely that I'm providing a service to that IRA. I agree with you. That is a very fine and undefined line, but it is one that seems to have held up in different court cases, both in bankruptcy and other things across the land. So is it the right answer? I don't know.
Right. I do get what you're saying there. And just because of what we do, if somebody else did that, the IRS might look at it different, but someone that's in it, I'm just playing it more on the safe side there. So again, consult your attorneys and let them make that decision.
I'm just saying, I would allow it. I see it all the time, Ken. I see that realtors do represent themselves. I see attorneys represent themselves. I know my brother he's an attorney. He represents his IRAs all the time. And his argument would be, and to me, he's one of the best IRA attorneys out there. So his argument is, I'm just being a good fiduciary to IRA. I'm taking all my knowledge, everything that I've learned, and bringing it to bear. It's no different than me looking for a good stock price or finding a good deal on a property. That is my knowledge, and I'm allowed to bring that to bear on my account. Yeah, the argument on the other side is, no, you added a license to it, right? I've added an attorney's license. I've added a real estate license. And so, but somewhere in there, this argument has held up so far.
All right. Well, it seems we've got a little bit of contention there. What about borrowing? Ryan, can we've kind of killed the first part of my question. But if my business or I need money, can I borrow from my borrow from my 401k, my IRA to do a deal?
No, you cannot. Like I said, you're a prohibited person. You cannot, no self-dealing. You cannot lend money to yourself. That's a big one because a lot of people always, want to do that. And again, that's with, rental properties as well. Hey, well, I'm going to buy a rental property. I'm going to rent it out most of the year, but 2 or 3 weeks, my family wants to use it. No, you can't do that. Another big one, I'll give you a quick example of, hey, I'm going to take my IRA and I'm going to buy, a house for my kid who's in college up here. He's not going to quote unquote live there. His friends are going to rent it out, but he's going to live there. No, again, you can't do that. He's a prohibited person. So people will try to
all the no's me and Ryan have for you.
But I mean, most of the stuff that you want to do, you can do, but like, think about it. Like when you invested in a stock, you're not getting anything benefit from that. So the same thing's going to go. Well, instead of buying a stock, you bought a house, but you don't get to use the house. It's an investment. That's how you need to look at it with these accounts. And there are, and I'll let maybe Nathan, this isn't in your questions, but just to give people some other information, we don't do these because we don't do ERISA testing, but you can take a 401k and invest into your own business.
Uh-huh.
And I'll let Nathan kind of go on that since you kind of have him here for.
I don't do this either, but you can do it.
Yeah.
So 401ks are a little bit different. There is one strange exception only on a 401k and not other qualified plans that allows you to borrow up to $50,000 or half its value. That's been expanded if you have COVID problems for 2020. But you must pay yourself back. It's like an investment. It's literally the money must be in cash, it must be removed, and you're paying yourself back at market rates, which is unclear what that means, and it must be amortized for 5 years. Again, I think it's silly. Come on, guys, you're part of one of the best real estate investment groups in the whole country. Why would you borrow money from your own IRA or your own 401k? God, borrow it from mine. Borrow it from someone else's at the company. There, come on. There's tons of money to borrow out there. There's more money in IRAs than I've ever seen in my 20 years of doing this.
I do want to comment on that too. I'm glad you brought that up for everybody. Think of all the money and the deals that you can do. There's over $9 trillion in retirement accounts. How much of that do you need? So that's why your network and everything is important and being parts of groups like this, because you're going to be able to meet people. And they can't do their own deal, but maybe they will lend on the piece of property that you want to buy. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money out there. $9 trillion.
And less than 2% of it is self-directed. Isn't that correct, Ryan?
Yep, somewhere in between. I think it's in between 2 and 3, whatever. 2%.
Okay,
Either way, it's a small number. So the thing is, most people do not know that this is an option. I talk to people all the time, and they're like, depending on their age, man, I wish I knew about this 10 years, 20, 30 years ago, because they would have made different decisions with their accounts. And I will say that people don't want to, obviously nobody wants to look stupid when you say, oh, have you heard about a self-directed IRA? Yeah, but I don't really know what it is. They may not have ever heard of it, but they don't want to say they haven't. It's a question to be asked of people, right? Okay, well, do you have $100,000 to lend? Well, let me just back up there. They say people have 7 times the amount in their retirement accounts than they do in discretionary funds. So when somebody says, oh, well, I only have $50,000 I can lend you out of my pocket, and then you say, well, how about your IRA? Oh, I got $500,000 in my IRA. Well, did you know you could use that to do this deal? I bet you 98% of the time, if not more, the answer will be no. Tell me more about that. And that's when you say, go talk to Ryan at CamaPlan, go talk to Nathan at Quest, whatever it is, and we'll help them. We'll tell them how to do that. You don't need to be the expert. You need to be the expert in what you're doing in the real estate, because that's what they're investing in. They're not investing in us.
That's just so wise, Ryan. Like I've seen real estate people try to mess up a deal trying to be an IRA specialist. It's just like, don't try to be an attorney. Don't try to be. You be the real estate investor, bring in that specialist. That actually elevates you when you bring somebody who's a neutral third party in. Can I know if I'm going over, but I'd piggyback on something Ryan had said that people may have missed if they're not in our industry. Last year in 2020, there was the greatest shift of wealth and no one even noticed it. You know what it happened is? Prior to 2020, most of America's wealth was in qualified plans like 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans. Because of the huge amount of people that retired in 2020, switched or changed jobs, all more of money is now in IRAs than any other source of funds anywhere in the world. Did you just hear what I said? And most of it isn't self-directed. Guys, there's so much money out there right now. If you're worried about funding your deals, stop and learn how to chase the right money.
And if you have a person that is, you've mentioned self-directed IRA and they've never heard of it, but they're kind of interested, make an appointment and check the calendars of Quest and CamaPlan. They have at least once a month, if not 2 or 3 times a month, a webinar with Q&A that explains how both of these accounts work. And they're on demand. So you can go to both of their websites and bring your private lender with you. And so you can say, okay, well, this is a self-directed IRA, and then turn them on and let them go. So we're going to move forward. Let's go to question 11. We've got 16 questions, and so we're doing good. So question 11, does the account have required minimum distributions? I really don't know who's supposed to go first. Let's go with Nathan because you're on my screen.
401ks do have required minimum distributions, now moved up to the age of 72. But it's kind of interesting. If you're making income, in other words, if I'm continuing to make contributions, they get suspended during the period that you're making contributions. So if you continue to earn money and put money into them, you can suspend your 401k. Haley, I certainly hope I answered that question right. If I didn't, jump in here and tell me.
I'll elaborate while she's jumping in because I think she's texting.
She's taking the chat question. So,
all right. So Ryan. Roth IRAs do not have RMDs, which is great. 401ks, both Roth and traditional, do have RMDs at age 72, and all other tax-deferred accounts have RMDs at 72 as well. So that's pretty straight and clear. The Roth does not, but every other account pretty much does.
All right. Well, I'm gonna we'll come back to this because for some reason I got my questions in a bad order. Let's go to the next question. So, Ryan, do I have to contribute every year to my IRA, or can I skip a year? If I had just a horrible year and have no extra money, can I just not contribute to my IRA?
Absolutely, yes. You do not have to contribute to your IRA. You don't have to max it out. Instead of putting your 6 or 7, you could put 1,000 in, or you could put 0 in. However, I encourage everybody on this. I don't even care what your age is. I think everybody should have a Roth IRA and start one of those. The other thing that's good about this time of year, Kim, is somebody can throw their 2020 contribution in, and then come the first week of January, throw their 2021 contribution in. So it gives them a little bit of boost, so they have a little bit more money to do it with. I want to make a point on the Roth IRA. You can take your Roth contribution out anytime without any penalty. So let's say you put your $6,000 in, for example, today, and 3 weeks from now something happens and you need that $6,000 back, or $3,000, whatever it is. You can take that $6,000 back out and put it in your pocket. So I tell everybody, if you're putting it in a savings account, put it into the Roth IRA. It's also good asset protection, because if something happens and you get sued, the first money they come after is money in your bank accounts. IRAs are very well protected. So I say just put it in there. If you need the money, you can get the money. Now, if that $6,000 made $1,000, let's say, well, that $1,000 you can still take out, but you pay taxes and a penalty. But the $6,000 as a contribution, you would not. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. And I think everybody should have that Roth IRA.
All right. Well, Nathan, what about the 401k? Can we, once we set it up and start making contributions and we just have a horrible year, can we skip it? Because there was no profit sharing to share.
Well, what's really clear is that you do have to, with a 401k, make a contribution that first year in order to legitimize it. No, you could certainly have bad years where you didn't have any money, or didn't make any money. What's unclear is how long you could go and have a 401k without making contributions. Though I've seen people do it for quite some time. If I went several years, I think I would make that choice to shut that down, turn it into IRAs at some point.
Okay. Let's go. Are there, Nathan, is there any special reporting for the 401k?
Yes. Oh, you want me to spell?
Yeah. What is the special reporting, and when do we need to do it?
Okay. Yeah. So with IRAs, your IRA custodian is doing all of the reporting for you. With a 401k, you have to report certain things. If you take a distribution, you're going to have to do your own 1099s and report those yourself. Typically, again, I'm talking about solo 401ks where you bought the plan document and the custodian's not doing something for you. You could pay a custodian a lot of money to do these services for you, but I don't do them. I don't think Ryan does either, but there are ones that do. So I want to make sure I'm just talking about these simplified plans where you're doing them. The next thing you have to report is we're going to have to report the values and stuff each year. Now, the good thing with 401ks is you don't have to do that. You don't have to file that form if it's less than total value of $250,000 right now. And they have a simplified form from $250,000 to $1 million worth. But either way, that form's complicated enough. You'll probably need outside help or outside accounting in addition to any expenses that it costs to maintain the account to be able to do it. So yeah, that's one of the disadvantages of 401ks. And then when this reporting isn't handled correctly, it could be very disastrous as far as opening you up for audits and other types of things.
All right. And Ryan, what about the IRA? Are there any special forms or reporting we need to do for the IRA?
In the majority of time, no. We'll handle, like if you do distributions and contributions, we handle that. However, and we don't have time to get into this, or people can talk about this another time or with us individually, but there is a UBIT and UDFI. So you have unrelated business income tax. If you're running a business out of your IRA, you have to pay taxes. Obviously, otherwise everybody in the country would have their business in an IRA and not pay taxes. So if you are, for example, flipping, they consider a business because you have inventory in and inventory out. Okay. And it's Form 990T, 990T as in Tom, for an IRA to pay taxes. The other incident where your IRA could pay taxes, if your IRA borrows money. Yes, your IRA can borrow money through a non-recourse loan. It's pretty common to do. So if somebody's IRA didn't have enough money, they can get a non-recourse loan to their IRA. However, they will pay taxes on the borrowed money. However, now that they're paying taxes, they get depreciation on the borrowed money. Not something we need to go in depth for, and that's also something that their accountant would help them with. It's not complicated. It's just something to be aware of. But most likely, if you buy a property and you rent it out, you're not going to have that. If you're lending money out, you're not going to have that. So in most cases, you wouldn't have it. But if you are going to leverage your IRA, yes, Form 990T, we do not file. Your accountant or professional would file that.
Okay, so you've answered question 14. Would my account ever have to file or pay taxes for any reason on the IRA? So Nathan, what about the 401k? Would it ever have to file or pay taxes?
Well, all those exact same rules apply, with the exception. There's this amazing exception which makes the 401k the most amazing product out there. The exception is if you buy debt leveraged real estate with a loan on it, was buying real estate with someone else's money, and you do it inside a 401k and basically hold it for 1 year, that nasty unrelated business income tax and that 990T and all that other stuff just goes away. And that's where it becomes very powerful, especially when you combine it with the fact that that money can be Roth money. So I'm going to take money that I don't have to pay any tax on the gains, then I'm going to borrow someone else's money, right, and buy an asset that's appreciating and cash flowing. It don't get no better.
Okay, and there is one of the biggest companies that train on borrowing from non-recourse loans is Matt Allen with North American Savings Bank. Do I have that name right?
Yep.
And North American Savings Bank is right here in Kansas City. So if you run into Matt Allen or Jason Zook, they can probably hook you up with a digital copy.
They have a
of
great
that book.
website too. Like their website has tons of articles and knowledge and just good stuff on it. It's worth just going to their website.
Yeah, I would say I think Matt Allen also has a book. You know, people should check that out as well. We've been working with them for decades, and I popped off real quick. Did you also mention MAREI which is First Western Federal Savings Bank?
I don't know about that one.
They do work with a lot of our clients as well. They both, between NASB and First Western, they have different rules on what they lend on. Like, for example, I forget which one. One of them doesn't like Airbnb and some other things, but everything is a case-to-case basis. So it's worth talking to them. Their rates are a little bit higher than the banks, and usually you have to have more skin in the game. Plan on 40 to 50%, but like I said, everything's a case-to-case deal. So, you know,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we'll get some plugs. We know North American Savings Bank, or NASB, here in Kansas City because there's one on every street corner. Okay.
Yeah, they do great work. We work with them a lot, and I agree. And Matt Allen's awesome.
All right, so question 15. We're getting there. We're doing well. So, Nathan, let's start with Ryan because you're already on the screen. It's easier. What happens to my IRA if I die? Do my heirs have to cash it in, or can they keep investing? And I think you've got a longer answer for me.
Yes, it goes to whoever you make the beneficiary, and your IRAs do override wills and everything. So whoever you list there, even if your will says it goes to your son and you wrote me in on your IRA application as the beneficiary, then Ryan Ficher is going to get the money from your account. Yes, you can keep investing it. However, you will have to start taking RMDs out of that account. They recently just changed it. Before, you could take your Roth IRA and probably have it outlive you for 100 years if you did it right. But they changed that now. Even with the Roth, once you inherit the Roth, you're going to have to start pulling money out as well, just like any other tax deferred account. So they can keep it investing for a while, but each year they're going to have to start taking more and more money out.
Okay.
Based on the age.
But whether it's traditional or
I think
Roth,
we get a different answer is that, or to simplify it, with the new rules, you used to be able to, when you inherited either type of account, they could basically take it over the course of life as long as they're taking RMDs. Unless you're inheriting it to a spouse or one of those specialized circumstances now, right. Basically you keep it for 10 years. And they get it for another 10 years, which they don't really have to take RMDs during that 10-year period. But at the end of 10 years, it's going to be distributed. So how long does a Roth IRA grow tax-free? Well, it'll grow tax-free until you take it out for the rest of your life, plus your beneficiaries for about 10 years. That's like a simple rule. It gets more complicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this was something I learned on actually from Quincy, I believe, or it might have been you, Nathan. We were discussing who should my beneficiary be on my IRA or my 401k if I have a trust.
My name's Nathan W. Long. and that's who your beneficiary should be on all of your accounts.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
It's just that's around and just TV.
But I learned this from Nathan. He was telling me that because I have a trust, I might want to name a real person as my beneficiary over the trust.
Right, and I'm sure Quincy's telling you about a very personal story of ours. You know, when my father passed away, with 2 sons in this as a business, he made a mistake that so many people make with their retirement accounts. Matter of fact, most people who mess up their retirement mess it up through their retirement accounts. And that he had named a trust, and the trust hadn't allowed for it to pass through directly to his wife. And so when it went into the trust, it had to be distributed and all the taxes paid on that year versus her being able to extend those benefits. So that's very important when you're talking to a estate planner, that they understand the IRA rules and what to do with them. Because as Ryan very clearly mentioned, IRAs will supersede a will, right?
Yes, and I will just add a little bit more to that. I use trusts myself. I grew up with them. I'm familiar with them. They're great for personal protection and personal assets. So you don't want to confuse the two. When retirement accounts come, a trust is treated differently than an actual person. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, I think if it's in a trust, they have to have it out within 5 years because it's a non-living person.
Yeah, it's treated just as right. But the trust can also name those things. In other words, you could have a trust that then, like Kim was saying, as long as it's done correctly and names the IRAs, then it can pass that benefit even through the trust, but it becomes more difficult.
Right, and if they don't have everything set up right and they just have the trust, it's not necessarily bad, but they might be forced to take it out sooner than they wanted. In
the case of my stepmother, who was quite a bit younger than my father, it created almost a 40-something% tax problem, and she had no need for the money at that particular time. You know what I mean? So it was difficult for her.
Okay, I was looking at the chat there. I had one more question it was somewhere in my questions and I missed it. So Nathan, I have my money in my 401k and it's all nice and happy there. What happens should the 401k get sued? Can they sue and take all the money in the 401k? Or, I mean, how do we protect ourselves from that?
The protections between IRAs and 401ks are different, but as a generalization, retirement accounts are very well protected in certain areas. Now, you gotta separate 2 different things. If I get sued, it's very difficult for you to breach that lawsuit into my 401k, into my IRA, right? That's my retirement account. Matter of fact, it's actually very hard, though the IRS in certain circumstances can do it. It's even hard for the IRS to get it for debts that you owe them. It can be very difficult for them to breach into an IRA. Now, this is different. My IRA owns a house, and Bob falls down in the house. Well, who do they sue? They're going to sue the IRA. Does that mean that suit would breach over to me? Probably not. It's just isolated to that IRA. It wouldn't stop in any way, shape, or form Bob from being able to sue the IRA. So you got to understand the 2 different things.
So
right. I'll just add a little bit more there. Nathan's right. It's the IRA that gets sued. And like we said before, the IRA is its own entity. So you're not getting sued. The IRA is getting sued. The IRA, you'd pick the attorney to defend the IRA. The IRA would pay the attorney fees, et cetera. But it's the IRA getting sued. And a lot of our clients with real estate, for example, take each property and put it in its own IRA. So God forbid, like Nathan was saying, someone falls and hurts themselves or dies on your property, you're not sacrificing all 10 of your properties being in one IRA. And again, that the attorneys say that usually protects you, but again, whose attorney is better and whatnot. I won't go into that because I can't give tax or legal advice, but generally speaking, that's what a lot of our clients will do, is break their properties into separate accounts so that they don't jeopardize all of them. I did have something else I wanted to say, but now I forgot when I went off on that tangent.
All right. Well,
I did want to say, I wanted to give everybody a live example. Sorry. And I'll just be real quick. I did have a client that got caught up, and his company owed the IRS a couple $1 million. And he had, I don't know, $2 million in his retirement account. And that's what he basically used to go flip money and take it out as distributions. He gave me the letter from the IRS that said that they weren't coming after his retirement accounts. Just as a quick example of, he owed him millions of dollars, and they said he could still keep that. Now, the other one that everybody else might know of is, when OJ went to jail, for example, they didn't take his retirement account from the NFL. He still got to keep that. So there is pretty good protection in these accounts. And I did see somebody ask a question. IRAs are treated like trusts, but yes, you can, just like you're going to have that checkbook LLC, you can put a trust in your IRA as well.
okay. Well, I am going to go on. I'm going to ask you some of the questions from the chat now. So I'm going to ask you both to give us a different example, but what if I have a small dollar account, whether it's an IRA, 401k, Coverdale, whatever? What is one good way to grow that account without, having a couple $100,000 to go buy a house? So Ryan, what's a good example for you?
It really depends on the person. I mean, obviously you could lend a small amount out. If somebody needed some money for a rehab, you could maybe wholesale a deal and make, put $1,000 down and make $10,000 if you got the right house for the right property. So it really is going to depend on the person and what they want to do. But there are ways to do that. I won't go into overfunding. Somebody can ask me about that on their own time, and then you can take the money out. But yeah, it really comes down to the investment that you're making. Notes, you could buy a small note, on a property as well. So.
Okay. All right. Well, Nathan, do you have any examples of
Man, we've been giving them. I gave them all day long. Okay. Buy a property, debt leveraged. No, but Ryan's right. It's based on your experience. Okay. Like, if you've got a little bit of money and you know how to wholesale, maybe that's what you want to try to do. You might want to try to buy a property subject to the existing financing. You might want to try to go to North American Savings Bank, or do what I do. Is I like to partner my monies. I take a little account, and this is how we've taught people in my family about investing our children for years. Is you take a child when he first gets his first earned income, when he first has a Coverdale, when he first has any ability to have any type of account, then you open a small account with them and you partner it with your larger account. This teaches them, teaches you. It also teaches you to partner with your family and other people, and you talk about your investments and you learn together and you grow as a family together. And the benefits of partnering small IRAs together will benefit you in ways that you can't imagine. I don't care whether you're a borrower or the lender, it helps both parties so much. So my favorite thing to do with a small account is find someone with a big account and jump on board with them.
And you can also, with the companies out there, I think you had some of your vendors there. I don't know what their minimums are, but they can lend their money at X% to the company, and then the company will lend their money out combined with other people's money, and they'll get X%, on their percentage. So there are ways to do that. And like I said, right now is a good time to get in 2 years contributions here, to start out with it.
And okay, well, what about, you mentioned it, so I'm going to ask it. And I've asked it for other people, Ryan, but you did mention overfunding. So you had mentioned sort of that, at the end of the year that you might make this year's contribution and next year's contribution, But you also just mentioned overfunding. So what is overfunding and what can we do with that, and how much trouble can we get in doing that?
Not necessarily trouble, just some taxes. So let's just say you wanted to put 100,000 in, right? You could technically go put $100,000 into your Roth IRA or traditional IRA or whatever, right? I mean, I would say if you're trying to get more money in, look at the other accounts that have higher contribution limits if they work for you. But if you put the money in, you're going to pay 6% on whatever you overfund. Now, if you get it out before the end of the year, you probably won't. Again, talk to your accountants on that. But so the 100,000 minus your, I'm just going to say 6,000. So you have 94,000 that you'd pay the 6% on. Then come year 2, you can take the other 6,000 out. So you'll pay on whatever, 88,000, you'll pay another 6%. So until you get that out, you keep paying the same 6%. But let's say they took that 100,000 and now they made $50,000, and now they go in year 2 and they take that 100,000 out minus their contributions. Then they're not paying on that anymore, and they have the $50,000 to keep investing.
Okay.
But again, talk to your accountants and professionals on that.
Yes, get legal advice. Here's another good question, and I don't know, you guys would know better, but my IRA or my 401k, so we'll ask each of you, is there a way, and this would be more for your company probably than the IRA or 401k, is there a way to get a credit card in my IRA or 401k's name to go pay for bills?
There's always a way.
Go ahead, Nathan.
There's been a lot of attempts. So me and Ryan both probably could speak to a long time ago, the company that we were both franchises for tried such attempts. I don't think that that's proper. So there is definitely rules in IRAs to try to keep you from the use of the direct use of the money. The only way to do that is in my opinion, a proper setup of a checkbook type of LLC. I would argue that you're not the managing member. I like to see it that way, where someone else becomes the managing member other than a disqualified person. And then if there was a debit card attached to that account, then that would be okay.
Okay.
Exception,
Well, again,
401k can't have a checking account. Checking account can have a debit card. You can have it.
You do want to be careful with that. And again, I'm not going to give the advice, but from most of the accountants and attorneys that I've spoken with, they say stay away from that. It's an unclear answer, and I will just say, because I think I saw it come by with somebody that said I did it with a debit card and it's just fine. The answer is I wouldn't say that it's just fine, and whoever told you that, I don't know where they got that from. So like I said before at the very beginning of this, the IRS never tells you what you can do, only what you cannot do. And
well, it's really clear you can have if you had a 401k account, and clearly what I said was a debit card, not a credit card.
Right.
So there is a difference between a debit card and a credit card. So the debit card is very clear that you can have that in a 401k.
Well, the debit card is different because I believe that obviously the money's there. A credit card, you're given like a personal guarantee saying that you're going to pay this back and you're not taking the money out right away. Yeah, we don't need to get into that. That's a little bit tricky there, but
and it's also going to depend on where your 401k money is, because I have a 401k and where my money is held, because of the type of account it is, they say they do not offer debit cards with that type of account. I have debit cards with that bank for every other account. My 401k, no debit card. They won't give me one. I tried.
Right.
So that was up to the bank. So I guess. I want to lend money to a fund, and I'm gonna guess into this question here. I want to lend to a fund, and the fund requires if I lend personally, I needed to be an accredited investor. How does lending from my IRA or 401k to that fund, does it have to be accredited, I guess? I don't know exactly how to ask that question, but maybe
No,
you know how to answer it.
I know where you're going. And accredited is referring to the individual. It doesn't matter that their IRA has $1 million in it. The accredited goes to the individual. That's a personal questionnaire. It has nothing to do with the IRA. So no, you still have to be an accredited investor to invest in the fund, even though your IRA is the investor. They do have, so that's all Reg D funds. When I say Reg D, it's Regulation D, but they do have Regulation A, Reg A funds, and those are non-accredited funds. But yes, if it requires you to be accredited, you can do it. There's a couple ways to qualify. $1 million in assets, excluding your personal residence, I think make $250,000 2 years consecutively. Am I missing anything there, Nathan?
Oh, I agree with 100% what you say. Once you qualified under Reg D, you can't invest into it with your IRA if you're not a qualified investor. I have actually played the other side of the fence, which might be a little bit tricky, so I don't know if I should mention it. But what I've done is okay, I'm a qualified investor, and the qualification was $100,000 or whatever. That was the buy-in. I said, but can I do part of it with my Roth IRA, part of it with my wife's IRA? So like, yeah. I said, can I do part of it with my HSA? This security, yeah. How about with my son's Roth IRA? They're like, yeah. So I did partner my son's Roth IRA. He was clearly not a qualified investor at that time, you know what I mean? But I partnered him with mine. I don't know if that was proper or not, Ryan, so I might not be able to, I'm not sure to bring it up, but I did do it.
So don't listen to Nathan. He'll put you in jail. Okay. Okay, so Nathan, I'm going to do all these deals, and we need to have insurance. I know that my IRA or my 401k could get insurance on a property, but is there like some kind of umbrella policy that we could get for our IRA for protection?
Not typically. You can always have umbrella properties but remember the IRA is limited to the investments that the IRA owns. So when you're talking about, typically when you're talking about umbrella insurance, it's like, that's going to sue me from something that all the other things happen, which that's not capable because the IRA has this very limited scope of just the things that it owns. So typically it's not really a question for is it legal or not, or whether it could. It's just who's going to offer it. Nobody, because that's not how those insurance programs work.
Okay, let's see what are some of my questions here. Let's see. What is the main advantage? Okay, I can't talk anymore. Voice is going out. So Nathan, what is the main advantage of the 401k over the IRA?
Well, again, there's 4 advantages, and you must have a need for one of the 4 advantages. Advantage 1, I want to make large contribution limits, maybe large Roth IRA contributions. I want to have checkbook control, or I have a need for checkbook control. I just don't want it. I have a need for it. Third, I'm doing a debt leveraged investment that is creating unrelated business income tax, and I want to avoid that tax, the biggest one. The 4th advantage I don't even like. I want to loan some money to myself, and I can only do that for my 401k. If you don't have one of those 4 needs, don't do a 401k, use an IRA. Why would you drive a Mack truck to the grocery store to buy a bread when you can get there in a Volkswagen?
This is cool, man. All right, so okay. And I think we've covered all we all get the benefits of both. Just the IRA has some advantages. Are there advantages of having an IRA over the 401k? Ryan?
Other than the ease of it, most likely that you're not going to have to do any reporting, assuming you don't have, the UBIT or UDFI the IRA is most likely going to be cheaper and simpler for you to do. But no, like if you have a need for one of the four things that Nathan mentioned, then I mean, and I think the big one is for a lot of people is having the checkbook control. But then again, you can still do that checkbook control from the IRA as well. You just set up the, most people will set up the checkbook LLC that the IRA owns. So if that's your main goal, I would say probably just use the IRA. But if you have the leverage stuff, that's definitely a good reason to use the 401k. So.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably more advantages to an IRA than a 401k. It is less expensive, like you said. You don't have any reporting. You're not doing your own accounting. It's most likely not going to create the same type of audit risk that you have when you have your own solo 401k. You don't have to actually have self-employment income, right? You could have common law employees where if you had common law employees with the 401k, so there's all these things that knock you off the list with the 401k, whereas an IRA has this much broader use for it to it.
Okay, I'm going to throw in a weird question here. So I'm in the market to hire, to open an IRA, a self-directed account somewhere. And I know there's some great companies out there. Both companies are great. But I'm going to ask you both, what is one question you would ask a potential IRA custodian or company if you were going to open a solo 401k with them? Nathan, what would you look for in a company?
Policy about answering the phone?
I like that.
100% agree there.
If you call 3 times and you've gotten a voicemail 3 times, don't go with that company. If you call 3 times and someone says hello, that might not be a bad place to start.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would say there's multiple, and I don't really, and I'm not going to bust on anybody. There's multiple, competitors, if you want to put it that way. I think there's probably a handful of people that do it really well. Quest being one of them, ourselves as well. You're always going to get a live person when you call our office. I think your office is the same, right, Nathan? But I have other ones that, I mean, we get a lot of accounts from other competitors because people just can't deal with it and they call in, they're on for a half an hour. They just can't get the information. It just becomes more difficult. They miss deals. They don't get told their paperwork's wrong. I mean, as a differentiator, I would say the main thing that you want to ask is, well, obviously nobody's going to tell you they have crappy service, but you'll be able to figure that out yourself. But we kind of pride ourselves on elite customer service. We want our customers to be able to do what they want to do in a timely fashion and get hold of a live person. And we always have a live person to pick up the phone and direct you to the right person. And,
Bless you.
That's really, the main concern for us. And it's tough because a lot of the times the first time somebody does this, they've never done it before. So they want to talk to somebody. Some people are old school. I mean, I've had people fly in from different states just to, just to meet with a real person and see shake a hand and, walk into an office and see the brick and mortar. So, and they want to know what they're getting.
Here's a few really good questions. How large is the account closing fee? Do you want to try to keep me here with a giant account closing fee? Do you charge if I need to expedite my deal? If I'm in a real hurry and I need you to put it at the top of the pile, is there going to be a charge for that? Right? If I run into a special circumstances where I'm having a difficulty, what type of experts do you have on staff to help me with education? What type of education services are you offering? Good custodians love to educate their clients because educated clients are the best ones, right? So all these questions are going to give you an indication of what they're going to be like when you have problems. A good custodian is like a good attorney. It doesn't really matter until it matters.
Do you understand what I mean, Kim?
Uh-huh.
Like when you're having a problem, and if you invest in real estate long enough, you're going to come to a set of circumstances where it's going to matter. And all the money you saved in custodian fees, which will probably be about $12.75 over the course of 10 years, right, is going to go out the window really fast.
Okay. And I really like that. Tell us what an account closing fee is, because some people might not know what that is.
Well, that's a nice little secret that us self-directed IRA custodians like to do, is they'll come you over and they'll bet you over and might have a small account fee, but when you leave, they may have a fee for leaving their company. And that fee could be very big.
Okay. All right. I will add in there, if they have a service, and one of your competitors, for both of you, they have their regular rates, but if you want extra good service, extra better, extra gold level service, you have to pay more money per year for them to hold your money, just so that they might answer your phone. So
I'm familiar with who you're talking about there. And from what I've heard, it doesn't matter what service. Well, I'll just speak for myself. I won't speak for them. We treat everybody the same and fairly there. If you have a service that I have to pay for that's there, I feel like that's wrong in my opinion, that somebody else is going to get better service than I am. And in my opinion, from who you're talking about, it's gotten pretty bad over there, and we get a lot of accounts, from them. And I just, you want to be able to get answers and do what you want to get done in a easier fashion than. And the other thing is, just because they're so big too, it's a call center. You have to start from square one all the time. You're never going to, I don't want to say never, you're most likely not going to get the same person. So then you're talking to a different person every time you get through. And it just becomes a bit of a hassle. So you want to work with someone that will work with you.
okay, and I'm going to say, if anybody else has any more questions out there, please put them in the chat. I know I glossed over a few of them. I think Haley answered them, and then some of them I just didn't quite get. So if you have any more questions, please be sure to put them in the chat, and we will maybe unmute you. And then this is my question for Ryan. How do we reach Ryan if we want more information? And we can go to Ryan Ficher, and I'm going to pull both of these. And so Ryan, what if we want more information? What do we have on your website to learn what for education?
We have a category on our website that's called CAMA Academy. And under there is upcoming events, as well as all of the recorded information as well, like from previous interviews. We have, videos on YouTube, and we have a podcast. There's a lot of different information, and I'm sure Nathan has very similar information as well there. And then we also have, bigger convention meetings. COVID kind of messed some of that stuff up, but there's still a lot of virtual stuff.
So what about your event on the 20th? What is that going to be, Ryan?
That is, let me see which one that is.
That's your big convention, your generation.
Oh yeah. So there's a bunch of investors. A lot of them have assets. A lot of that is real estate. They're just going to talk about what they do, how they built their business. There's a mix of a lot of women investors, men investors, or male, female, whatever you want to call it there. And they're just going to be giving out, a bunch of information. So I think it's good that people look at that and diversify their portfolio, and you can pick up little bits of nuggets from other people. We did also start an Invest Her one that's specific to women in the investment field and their companies and things. So I would encourage people to check that out as well.
All right. Well, and Nathan, if we want to learn more from you, who do we call and who do we reach out to, and
Yeah,
what do we learn on your website?
honestly, we've got a lot of sources. We've got a lot of events. We have QuestCon coming up this weekend, which is a lot of fun. I'm sure Haley will put some stuff out on chat. Haley put her information out on chat. She is one of our senior IRA specialists, and she's a 401k expert. She is honestly a very good person to ask a lot of questions to. We have about 30 IRA specialists at Quest. So you just ask those. But what I really encourage you is just explore, get on the website, look at some of the videos, and the biggest thing is just don't be afraid to pick up the phone. We also have live chat. Like during our business hours, if you have a quick question, just get on the chat. That's actually manned by IRA specialists. It's not manned by like some weird person in another country. Like they're there, they'll answer your question really quick. So that's a really quick, easy way if you have a quick question.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your event this weekend. What's QuestCon 2.0?
Can I chime in on this one?
Please.
Sure. Well, we'll
Okay.
meet Haley. We'll let her talk.
This is my baby. So I know I met some of you guys in the, sorry, Nathan, to cut you off. But,
No, I'm glad you're here.
So I run a lot of our business development. I'm in our marketing department. So I have a pretty big hand in all of our events that we put on. First of all, November 20th, that Generational Wealth Summit. That's going to be a great event. It's hosted by one of my good friends, Kaylee McMahon, out of the Dallas area. She is a rock star. She's just a couple of years older than I am, but she's got some cool things going on. She actually guest spoke at our class today. So that'll be a great event. Be sure to check out Carl on that event. This weekend, starting on Friday, we have QuestCon Live 2.0. This is a full 2-day online convention, expo, whatever you want to call it. We have about 22 different guest speakers. John Heyer and Jeff Watson will actually be on some panels with Quincy. I will actually be hosting day 2 of this event all day Saturday. But the reason why it's QuestCon 2.0 is we did the first QuestCon in July. And honestly, it went so well. We all came back in the office on Monday and we had our meeting. And Nathan was so excited. He goes, "That event was awesome. When are we doing the next one?" And then it was kind of silence. And we were like, okay, well, we'll host it in November. So this is now our second QuestCon. We've sold about 300 tickets. We're really excited for it. We have a virtual happy hour the night before for all of our attendees. So that'll be a fun event. But if you guys have questions about our other events, just let me know. We also do a virtual networking happy hour on the first and third Wednesday of every month. So that's a great Zoom meeting. You can meet and network with other investors. And we've had about 50 people from across the country joining us for each happy hour. It's a lot of fun. I host it. We all have a glass of wine and a glass of beer together. So kind of get that networking atmosphere. But yeah, join us for QuestCon. It'll be a lot of fun. But if you all have questions about those, let me know.
Okay. Well, cool. We've got a lot of great education, and I want to thank all 3 of you for all of your input. And we've got some great information, and I'm sure we will have more questions. So you'll probably, your websites will probably be blowing up tomorrow with all the questions we forgot to ask. I know a lot of times when we're live in person, we get a lot of really specific questions, which are really hard to do on Zoom. People won't come ask you because it's really specific to their situation. So I'm sure they'll be calling and asking on your websites tomorrow. Can we connect with either one of you or any of you on Facebook or social media?
Yes, absolutely. There is a CamaPlan page. I am also on there personally, but I'd say connect with the CamaPlan page because you'll get more information and posts of upcoming events there. But yep, we're on all social media and like I said, YouTube videos and all that good stuff too. So anybody is welcome to email me personally at rfisher. I saw you put that out there earlier, rfisher@camaplan.com. Did you give them my cell too? If somebody needs me, I do take calls on weekends and after hours as well. My cell is 201-687-9263. And you're welcome to call me on that as well. I have people do that. But the office is 215-283-2868. You can get me there too.
And if Ryan or anybody from CamaPlan calls, it comes up Pennsylvania calling. And if anybody from Quest calls, it comes up Texas is calling. So that's how I knew. Those are the only calls I answered this week, because I knew it was either somebody from CamaPlan or somebody from Quest. I've just been getting a lot of calls from Quest because I have a deal working. So they've been calling me back and answering questions. So I can speak for Quest personally, and I have heard the same things about CamaPlan because I've been at a lot of events where CamaPlan was also a guest speaker and had a lot of clients in the audience. When you call, both companies answer the phone. They do call you back. I usually email, and then I usually have an answer within an hour or sooner. And I have had people call me on my cell phone. Nathan called me in January. I had a question about something, and it ended up Nathan called me, and I was like, I really wasn't worried about getting that deep of a question, but Nathan called just to make sure I got my question answered. So when you get with a small company like these, that's the kind of service you get.
Look, Haley doesn't believe you. She's like, Nathan made a call?
Yes, he called. I don't know. Maybe he wanted something else. I don't know. Maybe you were calling me to speak at the RIA.
No, I make calls every once in a while. I actually do.
But I think
I have no idea what social whatever you were talking about was.
Yeah, I know that Quest has social media, but I don't think Nathan is very active on social media. I just think he has a page that somebody does for him.
Haley and some other people help him out with that.
That's exactly correct.
All right.
Personally, honestly, I find it to be a time waste. So I've exited from that world personally. I think
I'm ready to leave it too. It's driving me insane.
It's very good for my business, and I don't mean anything bad about it. It's just for me personally. It's like it takes away my thinking from other things.
Yep. All right. Well, cool. Are there? I don't have any more questions. We are recording this. I'm going to say now we are recording the chat, but last month when I saved the chat, I didn't get it. I don't know where it went. So if you want to save the chat and make sure you have it, save the chat. The event code, Haley got that, so you can save the chat. And we will be getting out the replay of this sometime tomorrow. It depends on how well Zoom and our editor and YouTube all want to play together tomorrow. Sometimes it's quick and easy, and then other times it takes me 24 hours. So, but I hope to have this out late tomorrow afternoon or Thursday at the latest for the replays and the chat, so that you can come back and grab information if you missed it. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I will see you either Friday at our mastermind if you're a member and coming to the 9 o'clock Friday. That is a great place to connect and ask more questions, and find private lenders with IRA money to lend. And then we haven't figured out exactly what we're going to do for the December meeting. We're trying to figure out how to do something for Toys for Tots like we normally do, only do it virtually. So if anybody has ideas how to do a Toys for Tots fundraiser on Zoom, I'm all ears, and we'll figure that one out. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. And thank you, Kyle, specifically for helping manage the spotlight. Otherwise, we would have been very dizzy after about 10 minutes.
Well,
So
Kim,
thanks
for the invitation. Nathan, Haley, good seeing you guys again. And I like Kyle's background.
Hey, there was somebody that was asking me about an investment in St. Louis when I was in one of the private rooms. Nathan.long at Quest Trust Company. Nathan.long, Quest Trust Company. I didn't get your name. David, there you are. I see your thumbs up. Okay, brother. All right, bye. That was personal. Nothing to do with the other time.
Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. If you have liked this video and you've learned something, please be sure to give us a like here on the video and subscribe to our channel if you would like future recordings. And I highly recommend, if you have any questions, post them here on the page, here down below the video, wherever you're watching the video. There should be a spot where you could post questions or comment to the post with questions, and we can make sure that someone from Cama or Quest IRA are able to answer your questions or at least put you in touch with the right person. So again, thank you for joining us. Give us a like, give us a share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.